for your interest in auditioning for Two Muses' virtual production of Love's Labour's Lost. This video will give you some tips about what we are looking for with a virtual audition and how to best set up your space. There are two ways to audition for us. The first is by requesting a live audition time slot. The other is by sending a pre-recorded video. You can indicate your preference when you fill out your audition form, which is linked in the description below. Either way, your audition should consist of a 1 to 2 minute classical monologue that you have memorized. If you choose the live audition option, please arrive a few minutes prior to your time slot by clicking the link in your confirmation email. Someone will let you in the room when your audition time has begun. Please remember to use a computer or a laptop. No mobile devices for this audition. If you choose to film your audition, please film in landscape via Zoom. Specific instructions will be sent to you via email if you choose the pre-recorded option. Remember to email your submission to twomusesproductions@gmail.com by 2 p.m. Eastern Time on February 13th to ensure that your audition will be considered.
First and foremost, I'm here to talk to you about computer height. As you can see by this screen, my computer is set up so you get the entirety of my head as well as a little bit of my shoulders. This creates kind of a human quality. What you don't want is for you to sink down so low that your chin eventually gets cut off. And we don't want you on the opposite end of things to have a point where the top of your head is cut off either. Give yourself a human quality, remain kind of centered in the middle of the screen, and it'll work out for the best. So adjust your computer however that works. Mine, for instance, is located on a level at the back of my desk rather than being flat on my desk surface. And I also have my chair raised up to match it where I think is a good height. So play around with it. It's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. We're not expecting you to be 100% perfect for these auditions. So the next thing I wanted to tell you guys about is landscape versus vertical filming, or landscape versus portrait, excuse me. When you're on a computer, it automatically does the correct positioning. But let's say you don't have a computer or you're working off your cell phone. Make sure that you have selected landscape or portrait in your settings. You want landscape selected before you start filming. I would advise making sure that's already set before you hit record, just because it is a little dizzying for your audience if you are changing the position after you start filming. Next thing I'm going to talk about is my background. Behind me you can see a relatively blank wall. There is one picture just over here. I can't really point to it behind myself, but it is right over there. You also can see the back of my chair, a little bit of furniture over here, so we're not asking you to be perfect. This is my setup because this is my office and what I work out of. I also know enough to block some little chaos colors of my chair and my bookshelf behind me. It looks a lot better when I am blocking the view of that. You want to keep your background as open and clean as possible, but we understand that people are human. So if you have a messy background because that's where you can film, that's okay. We do ask that you cover up any dirty laundry because we really don't want to see your unmentionables on screen. That's not what you're auditioning for. Last but not least, let's talk about lighting. So if you've ever seen a fancy YouTube video or wondered about camera lights or things like that, we're not asking you to run out and get some high-end tech to help you film. Instead, you can do what I do or find something that works for you. What I do is have overhead lighting, which adds just kind of a sunlight look, as well as a lamp located behind my computer, but close enough that I'm still getting some of the light. This lighting in combination with each other lets me look human. With just overhead lighting, I tend to look a little washed out and grayish. With just the lamp light behind my computer, it gives me these weird shadows on my face that also don't look that attractive. But it really depends on what it's like where you're filming, whether or not the light is reflective in your room, whether or not you have these items. These are just suggestions. I hope some of this is helpful. I hope you are able to send us a great video. If you have any questions, feel free to email us. I'm happy to chat more or to give more suggestions based on your individual setup.
Hello. As you prepare for your audition, here are a few things to keep in mind. If you choose to do your monologue sitting, make sure that you allow yourself room to move and sit closer to the front edge of your chair so that you can keep your energy up. You may decide instead that you would rather do your monologue standing. If you choose to audition standing, there are a couple more things to keep in mind. First, make sure you have the room to move from side to side, forward and backward as needed. Second, make sure that your camera is in an elevated position so that we can see from the waist up. Regardless of whether you choose to audition sitting or standing, make sure that you are projecting towards the computer. Oftentimes, that's a problem for me where I talk as if I'm just speaking to somebody sitting right next to me, but that's not always enough for the computer microphone to pick up. Also, your point of focus for the audition should be the camera. If you look off in the distance or at the computer screen to yourself talking, that can sometimes look a little odd to the viewer, so keep that in mind. Furthermore, if you choose to use props or costumes, keep those to a minimum. We don't want to overshadow our audition with those. Finally, make sure you practice with a camera on the computer. It could take some time getting used to talking to a camera at the top of the screen rather than off in the distance as if you were performing on a stage and you might look over the auditioner's head, or at yourself, which you might do frequently if you're in Zoom calls. But for our purposes, we want to focus on the camera so it looks as if we're making eye contact with the auditioner and eventually viewer. Keep all of these things in mind, have fun, and then hopefully see you soon.